Marley Bird YouTube channel brought to you by Red Heart Yarns. In this video, I will teach you how to make the Athleisure striping throw. This is a really great throw pattern that uses a simple V-stitch, but it's the color sequence that gives it a really striking look. Take a look down here and let me show you. As you take a look down here at the blanket, this is just one portion of the blanket, but you can see that by using simple color changes for striping, we create a really awesome look to a very simple blanket. We are just using some very easy half double crochets. There isn't even a chain between them. And then on the next row up, we build the following row with half double crochets into that stitch. So by following the color sequence of this blanket and using this really simple stitch pattern, you can create a really wonderful throw blanket in any color you choose. Maybe you have a guy or girl in your life that likes to follow along with the NBA or maybe college basketball or football or college football or hockey or whatever it may be. You can make this throw in their favorite team colors, and you don't have to do any sort of stitch multiple changes or anything like that. It's just a matter of the colors you choose. Now, this is a free pattern available on redheart.com. You can find all the details about this pattern in the video details right down there below. You'll find a link. While you're down there, please smash that like button, as my kids say, to let people know you enjoyed this video. Once you download the pattern and gather your materials, join me back here. We'll jump in and I'll get you started on this really great athleisure striped throw. You've downloaded the pattern and all the extra materials I put in the link below. Let's go ahead and start off with me showing you how to do this stitch pattern, and then we will go back and I will talk to you specifically about the pattern itself and the extra charts I've made to help you be successful as you're making the athleisure striped throw. This particular stitch pattern is super easy. It's literally just working the same row every row, but we do color changes. And because of those color changes, it requires us to have a multitude of instructions. So even though the instructions for the athleisure striping throw look really confusing, I promise you it's really not that hard. Let's go ahead and jump in. I'm going to move my pattern right up there, and this is my little swatch I created, and so we will start right down here at the very beginning. And I've just grabbed some worsted weight yarn here, and this is the color Flamingo, and we will begin by putting a slip knot directly onto our hook. For a slip knot, you place the tail of your yarn in the palm of your hand, take your working yarn, wrap it around your forefinger and middle finger, and when you come back up, cross over. After you cross over, turn your hand over, go underneath the front loop, grab the back loop, and then off of your fingers. You now have a slip knot ready to place directly onto your hook. Go ahead and pull the tails apart to tighten up that slip knot a little bit onto your hook. Now what I need you to do is chain a multiple of 2 plus 2. Or if you're following along with the pattern, you want to chain a multiple of you want to chain 120. For the demonstration purposes today, I will chain 20. So to do a chain stitch, you take your hook, you wrap it around your chain just like so, and then take your hook and pull that loop through the loop that's on your hook. We now have one chain. You do that again, yarn over, pull that hook right through the loop on your hook, and I have 2 chains. You do not want to tighten up those chains as you create them. You want them to maintain the same size as they are as they come directly off of your hook. The reason is, as the stitch goes to the hook, this part of the hook, that determines the size of your chain. So if you are to pull the yarn and make that chain stitch tighter, all of a sudden you're going to have chains that are way too difficult to get into. If that's a problem you've had in the past, you could always go up a couple of hook sizes before you do, or as you do your chain stitch, and then make sure you go back to the correct size hook you need for your project. Or you could just be real cautious like I am making sure that I maintain the same size of chain as I work along. You'll notice that as I do each chain, I take my opposite hand and I hold the pad of my thumb on the top of that chain. So like on the V's, I will hold it relatively close to the hook after a couple stitches, and then I will move the pad of my thumb up again and I do it again. So I never let the hook get too far along or too far away from this thumb before I move it up once again. Go ahead and chain the number of stitches that you need, and we'll jump into row 1. Once you have your number of stitches needed, you will continue on with row 1. Now row 1 indicates we want to put a V-stitch in the 4th chain from hook. So you will never count the loop on your hook, so we need to count 4 chains from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll notice I'm counting the top of the V of the chain. So in this 4th chain, that's where we want to put our V-stitch. Now the V-stitch in the pattern, let me pull this pattern over so that we can go over this together real quick. Right here where it says special stitches, it indicates that the V-stitch in the pattern is simply 2 half double crochets in the indicated space. So if you're familiar with V-stitches that actually have a chain stitch between them, that is not this V-stitch. It's literally just 2 half double crochets into one stitch or one space. So we'll start off with a yarn over of our hook. Going into the 4th chain from our hook, I simply just put my hook directly into that chain, yarn over my hook, still going over the top, so it's just like the chain, and then I pull my hook through the chain I went into. You see that? So I have 3 loops on my hook. Now I will yarn over and go through all 3 loops on my hook. I want to do that one more time into that same chain. So I yarn over my hook, go into that same chain, yarn over my hook, pull up a loop, so I have 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, and draw through 3. I've now created a V-stitch as indicated in the pattern. So the important factor here is that we have both of our stitches into one chain. Now the instructions say that we need to skip a chain and go into the next chain. You want to be very cautious that you don't accidentally skip too many chains. As these half double crochets are created, sometimes they begin to overlap some of the chain stitches and you could accidentally skip too many chains. So for that purpose, you want to make sure you kind of shove those half double crochets over a little bit and make sure you're looking at the next chain from the one you worked into, and you want to work into the following one. Does that make sense? So in that following chain, we will do a V-stitch one more time. So I've yarned over my hook, go into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through all 3 loops. Yarn over my hook, go into the chain, yarn over my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through all 3 loops. I will skip a chain, go into the next chain, and put a V-stitch there. This is the repeat. Whenever you're working with the pattern and it says to repeat from star, that is where you will find the asterisks in the pattern. Let me pull the pattern down so I can show you what I'm working on. So right here we have an asterisk and it says skip next chain, V-stitch in the next chain. Repeat from asterisks across to the last 2 chains. So I've created the first repeat and then I'm just repeating that from here on out. So I've created a V-stitch, I will skip a chain, go into the next chain with another V-stitch all the way down my row until I get to the last 2 chains. Go ahead and do that on your end. Join me back here and we will see how to finish off this row. I'm to the last 2 chains of my row, and what I need to do to finish off my row is skip 1 chain, and I will put a half double crochet into the last chain. So only 1 half double crochet in that last chain. So as I set this down, what we've created is by skipping those initial 3 chains there, that counts as 1 half double crochet, and we finished off with 1 half double crochet, and we have V-stitches worked in between these 2 half double crochets. At the end of row 1, you need to finish off with this color. So I will go ahead, yarn over, pull up a loop, and I am going to cut my yarn, leaving at least 4 to 6 inches of a tail. Leave a nice long tail, and then pull that loop directly through and give it a tug, and you've finished off your work. If you watched some of my previous videos, you know I am not a fan of crocheting over your tails. It has been my experience that whenever I just crochet over my tails, that they end up coming undone after I wash the actual item. So I don't like to do that, especially when I'm working with something that has stripes and I'm going to have a lot of tails. I take the time and weave in my tails at the very end to make sure that they're nice and secure. Don't worry, I will show you how to weave in your tails as well, but I just want to point that out now for those of you who might be asking, why isn't she just crocheting over her tails? I don't like to do that, and I don't think you should either. At this point, I will go ahead and I will turn my work, and we move on to row 2 of the pattern. As I pull the pattern down, it says row 2, it says join color B with a slip stitch into the first half double crochet, and then chain 2. Now that first chain 2 will be counted as a half double crochet here and throughout. Then it says to put a V-stitch into each V-stitch that I just made across the top of the half double crochets Then it says to put a V-stitch in each V-stitch across, finishing off with a half double crochet in the top of the beginning turning chain. So let me show you how to do that here. This is really important. Row 2 says to begin with color B, and that is vital to point that out, because as you continue on with the pattern, whenever the instructions say to repeat row 2, that means you're not only supposed to repeat row 2, but you're also supposed to go back to whatever your color B is. So here I am choosing this beautiful jadeite color to be my color B, and I'm at the end of the row I just finished. I will join with the slip stitch into the top of this half double crochet I just finished. So I will take my hook, go directly into that stitch, grab my new color, making sure I leave, look, I'm leaving 4 to 6 inches once again so I can weave that in later. I will yarn over my hook with my new color and pull up a loop. Now I just yarn over my hook and pull that new loop through the one that's on my hook and tighten that up. That is a slip stitch. So now my jadeite color is joined to the flamingo. I continue on with my chain 2. So there's 1 and there's 2, and that counts as a half double crochet. Now, as I mentioned before, I need to put a V-stitch in each V-stitch across this row. Now, because we didn't do any sort of a chain stitch between these two half double crochets, you might be asking yourself, where am I putting that stitch? Are you putting it in the top of the half double crochet like you've done before? Like this is where you normally would put a stitch, correct? That is not where I want you to put your stitch. What I want you to do is go ahead and yarn over your hook, and literally between the two half double crochets you created, you see how I'm spreading them apart? I want you to put your hook in that space between those two half double crochets. Once you've done that, yarn over your hook and pull up a loop. You have 3 loops on your hook, so go ahead and complete your half double crochet. Then we want to do another half double crochet in that same space. See how that big space now? So I go in, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 3. So what I have just done is I've created a V-stitch in between the 2 half double crochet V-stitches of the row below. And I will continue doing that all the way down this row. So I will yarn over my hook, go over to the next V-stitch of the row below, make sure I'm working between the 2 half double crochets. I will go in between, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 3. Yarn over my hook, go into the same space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 3. Yarn over, go to the next V-stitch, go between the 2 half double crochets, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 3. Do that one more time to complete my V-stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 3. So you can see here I have my half double crochets here at the start. Remember, my chain 2 counts as a half double. I have my V-stitch in a V-stitch from the row below, my V-stitch in the V-stitch from the row below, my V-stitch in the V-stitch from the row below. I continue on placing V-stitches on this row into the V-stitches from the row below until I get to the very last V-stitch. After the last V-stitch is completed, I will then place just a half double crochet into the second chain of the chain 2 that we started with. So let me get to that point and I'll show you what to do. I'm on the last half double of my last V-stitch, and here is my turning chain. So what I want to do is make sure I yarn over my hook. I will literally go into the actual chain. I don't want to go into that space because it's going to leave a big gap. I will go into the actual chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 3. So now I have finished with a half double crochet and I finished row 2. And as we take a look at row 2, we can see it's basically the same as row 1, only instead of working into chains like we did on row 1, we're working between 2 stitches for row 2. Now here's the cool part. Row 3 is just like row 2, only we aren't changing colors. So let's go ahead and see how to do that. And literally, I'm like stunned, I'm stumbling over myself. That's the stitch pattern for the whole blanket. What we just did, doing these V-stitches in the center of the V-stitches from the row below. Then it's all just a matter of changing colors when you need to change colors. So let's continue on. You'll see here that at the end of row 2, you're not supposed to change colors. So you go ahead and you turn your work. You begin with the chain 2, and remember that counts as a half double crochet. Let me get myself some more yarn here. That counts as a half double crochet, and we continue on placing V-stitches in the center of V-stitches. So here's my first V-stitch from the row below. I'm going between the 2 half doubles, between them, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 3. Make sure I do that one more time to create my V-stitch, and voila, I've done it. Now I just continue doing this all the way down this row. Nothing new, same thing you've been doing, and we're even using the same color as we did on row 2, but in the pattern, it is a distinct difference between row 2 and row 3 because of the color change, okay? That is very important. When we go to take a look at the pattern, you're going to notice that a majority of the pattern tells you to just either repeat row 2 or row 3, and then it tells you when to change colors. So just this simple instruction right here, you've already learned how to make this blanket. It's just a matter of changing colors past this point. Let me get to the end of this row and show you one more time how to work into the chain 2 space at the very end with your half double crochet. So here's my turning chain right here. Remember, I don't want to go into that big space. The reason I don't want to do that is you're going to get a really big gap in your blanket, and it's just not pretty. So if you yarn over your hook and you actually go into the chain, just like if you were working into a foundation chain, go ahead and create your actual half double crochet into that chain. At the end of row 3, you're supposed to fasten off again. Remember, we're doing stripes. That's why we have to fasten off. And they're odd numbers, so you can't just keep it on there and then catch it the next time because it's 3-row striping at this point. I want to make sure I leave at least 4 to 6 inches for a tail so that I can weave in my ends later, fasten it off, and I'm at the end of my row 3. Can you see how that works out? The following part of the pattern, let's pull that in and take a look. The following part of the pattern for row 4, it says with color A, so I would go back to this color right here. With color A, it says repeat row 2. So all I would do here is go back to row 2, and instead of joining with B, I would join with color A. Pretty simple, right? So I would repeat row 2 and then fasten off. Then it says rows 5 and 6, repeat rows 2 and 3. But what yarn, what color am I using for rows 2 and 3? It doesn't make it really specific, does it? At least it doesn't seem to be very specific, when in fact it really is. all this is saying is repeat rows 2 and 3. So literally I will come back up here to row 2, and when it says join with color B, that's what the pattern wants me to do. It wants me to come back here and join with color B once again. So I would use B to do rows 2 and 3 again. Then it says rows 7 through 18, I would repeat these last 3 rows 4 times. Now that can get a little bit confusing, right? You're like, all right, Marley, I'm following along, I'm changing colors, I'm repeating rows 2 and 3, which really are the same row. They really are the exact same construction, but it's a different color for each row. But now I have to do that a total of 4 times. How am I ever supposed to keep track of that? That's where it's handy to take a chance and watch these videos with me teaching you, because I've gone ahead and written these instructions out row by row with the instructions on each row and what color you're supposed to use for each row. Beyond that, because we know that this stitch pattern is really easy and you could just maneuver along and just keep going, I've also created a full color sequence chart. So that way, if you're one of those people that doesn't have to look at the pattern, you just need to know what color is coming next, there's a whole chart ready for you and you could just check off the chart. So let's go ahead, take a minute and take a look at the pattern, the row by row instructions I've written out, and the color sequence chart. Once we've looked at that, I'm going to come back to my little swatch here, this one, and I will show you how to weave in ends and how to do the reverse single crochet border, okay? We've already referenced the pattern because I've taught you the stitch pattern, but let's take a look at the actual pattern so that you can see how you're supposed to read it. I've already taken you down, right down here to rows 7 through 18, where it says you're going to repeat the last 3 rows 4 times. So the last 3 rows are rows 4, 5, and 6, which are actually row 2, row 2, row 3. So then you have to come up here and go, okay, row 2, row 2, row 3, but what colors am I supposed to use? It can be really confusing, okay? So what I have done is I've taken this actual pattern and I have created a chart that you can find on marleybird.com. I've put a link to it right down there in the video notes. You probably have already seen it. And it looks a little something like this. I have just taken the instructions from the actual pattern and written them out row by row. So whenever the pattern stated that I needed to repeat something, I would copy and paste those 3 rows and then make it so that they were all written out long form. So right here at the beginning, you can see we started off with the chain of 120 if you're following along with the blanket. This is my line telling me what row I'm on. This is just right here at the beginning so that you know which is the right side and wrong side. But then right here in the center of my chart, this is the meat of the instructions. These are the actual written instructions, okay? And I have made all of the row 2s in this kind of shade of purple and all of the row 3s in black. The reason I did that is because as I was making the chart, it was easier for me to keep track of when I was trying to do a row 2 or a row 3 as I followed along. I was just trying to maintain the pattern. So what we've done so far in our little swatch here today, let's start with this one. We have started off with row 1, which was this flamingo color. We've done row 2, which was join with our jadeite color. And we didn't change colors, but we did row 3 and we did our jadeite color and then we fastened off. Now, in the original sample, Christina Mershon used white, silver, and blue as her colors. So what you'll notice over here in this little section, those are actually my color codes for what join with B. My color B is blue. So I'm supposed to keep blue, but then I'm going back to white because my color A would be white if I was making the actual sample or following the exact same colors. Does that make sense? So this is where I went back to white. But then I can take a look here and say, okay, look, I'm back to row 2 again, which is the same as row 3. We're just changing colors. And I'm going back to my color B, which I can see is blue, and I'm going to do that for 2 rows total. Can you see how this works out? Now you might be asking yourself, okay, that makes sense, but wait a minute, you have this yellow stripe here. What is that? Okay, that is where when you come to a pattern and the pattern says repeat the last 3 rows 4 times. That's what we just read, correct? Then you'll see here that I wrote below, you will find the instructions written out row for row. So what I have done was I took these last 3 rows and I did a copy and paste. So I took these 3 rows, copy and paste, and put them right there. And then if I had the next page, it would be copy and paste, and I put them right there. Copy and paste, and put them right there. And I did that a total of 4 times. So by the end of the 4th repeat, you know exactly what row you're on, what color you're on, and in this row here, this column that's blank, you can put a check mark every time you finish the row. Super easy, right? So not only did I just teach you how to do super simple V-stitch, I've also taken the pattern and literally just laid it out row for row. You know exactly what color, what stitch you're supposed to do, and you have a place to mark it off. Couldn't get any easier than that, right? Yes, it can. So as you take a step further from this, if you're like me and you're like, okay, I've got this stitch down, I get it. I'm going to begin with the chain 2. I'm doing V stitches in each V stitch, and I end with a half double crochet. I just need to know what color I need to change on which row. What I have done then is I pass this one along. So as you take a look here, you can see I've created a chart that's literally like bare bones. It has the row number and then it has a color sequence, letting you know what color you're supposed to use on what row. Now I can already see I did a little mess up right here, so I've got to go back and I'll fix that. It'll be correct on your version. But this is how easy it is. Since you already know the actual stitch pattern, you just need to know now when do you need to use what color for your entire stitch pattern. And that's what this little chart is. If this isn't for you, don't worry. Go back to the row by row instructions that I wrote out here. And it's a total of 10 pages. You'll see there's little page numbers at the bottom, so that way you know what page you're on. And as I said, just use your pencil or whatever and do a check mark over here every time you finish a row, and you'll know what row you're on. If all of this is too confusing for you and you're just like, you know what, Marley, this makes sense to me, go ahead and stick with this. This is not incorrect. It's just that I find this a little bit more confusing than if I look at a chart like this or even a chart like this. So there's 3 different patterns, all the same pattern. How about this? 3 different versions. That's probably not good to say either. There's 3 different ways for you to read the exact same pattern, whatever method works for you. It's really not so difficult. At the end of the very last row, so the very last row you complete is row 130. For row 131, you are going to work reverse single crochets in every half double crochet across the row. So let me go ahead and show you how to do a reverse single crochet, so that way you literally have all the tools you need to create this beautiful blanket. So I went ahead and at the end of my last row, I did go ahead and I finished off because I was just eager and I was just working along and wanted to finish it off, and I probably shouldn't have because I needed the yarn still attached. So what I'm going to do is I am going to attach the yarn right now as if this were my last row. Okay, so this is, I just finished my last row. We're going to pretend that that was already attached there. Okay, so here we are. Ta-da! Magic of TV. So I'm on my last row. I'm getting ready to do row 131, and I need to do reverse single crochets all the way back. Now, this might be confusing to you because you might say, okay, Marley, don't you need to turn your work? No. When you're doing a reverse single crochet, as you finish the last row, you do not turn your work. What we are going to do is we are literally going to crochet into each stitch down this row. So you'll notice here, I'm coming back behind, going into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop so I get 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, draw through 2. All right, so here's the top of my stitch. See the V there? I'm coming back, I'm going into that V, yarning over, pulling that loop up, and when I pull that loop up, just so you know, this is the loop I pulled up. I want it in front of the loop that was on my hook, okay? So that's the loop I pulled up, then I yarn over, draw through 2. I come back, I'm going to go through that stitch, so I'm going to go right into that stitch, yarn over, and when I pull that yarn over up, see how there's the yarn over I just pulled up, and it's in front of the loop that was on my hook, and then I yarn over, draw through 2. And I do this all the way down this row, and what's going to happen is I am going to get this super cute corded look. Let me get some more yarn on the top of my blanket. So I'm coming backwards, going in, around and up, yarn over, draw through 2. So let me get to the end of this row so you can see what it looks like. I want to make sure I finish off with the last reverse single crochet into the chain 2 that I started with, and then I would finish off my work, making sure I leave a nice long tail just like before, give it a pull and a tug, and I get this really great corded look. I pulled the yarn a little bit there, that's why that looks a little goofy right there, but I get this great corded look. Then what the pattern wants you to do is it wants you with the right side facing you, okay? The right side of row 1. So let's find the right side of row 1. So you want the row 1, right side of row 1 facing you. And once you've done that, go ahead and let's rotate your blanket. Okay, so we're going to rotate our blanket. And what you need to do now is join with your color A, so it's the same color you are working into. You'll join with the slip stitch right there into the chain space, chain stitch, and then you will do a reverse single crochet into each chain all the way to the end. Now remember, we did work into a chain with a V-stitch, so you'll have one loop possibly remaining, but then you want to make sure you also do your half double crochet into the space between the 2 V-stitches, because remember we had a chain there. So I am going to change colors just for demonstration purposes, but you will use the exact same color. I will join with a slip stitch into the actual chain 2, okay? So I've put my hook into the chain 2, and I will join with a slip stitch. It's that easy. Now I will go ahead and I will do my reverse single crochet into each stitch. So I'll start off with this first one. I will go into the same chain I went into, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. I'll go into the next one, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And then go into each chain all the way to the end. Now you can decide to work into a space, the space that the chain is created, or the space between the 2 V-stitches, or actually work into the chain. It's up to you. So for me, I'm going into the actual chain to show you what that's going to look like. So I'll do that for a couple here, and then I will work into the actual space and show you what that looks like, so you can decide what to do. So here I am to the bottom of a V-stitch, so I just have one loop. All right, so now I'm going to go into the space. So okay, here's a V-stitch, I'm looking at it upside down, and here's a V-stitch, I'm looking at it upside down. So this would be the space. So I'm working into the space, and then I'm working into the loop, and then I'm working into the space, and then I'm working into the loop, and then I'm working into the space, and I'm working into the loop. So I'm going to set this down so we can see what's going on here. The difference between working into the actual chain and working into the space is if you work into the actual chain, you get the remaining, what I call the butt of the stitch, or the butt of the chain hanging out. The butt of the chain is actually what we are working into at the bottom of our V-stitches. So if you work into the chain space between the V-stitches right there, you don't get that butt of the chain. Whereas if you work into the actual chain, you get that butt. It's a total preference thing, whichever way you want it to be. If you want your butt hanging out, or if you want it tucked away, it's totally up to you. Both ways work. The important part is that you need to be consistent all the way down the row. At the end of the row, you would finish off just like we did down here, finish off and pull your yarn through, and then it's a matter of going back and weaving in all of your tails. So I want to show you how to do that because I did tell you I would do that. I am grabbing a steel bent tip tapestry needle because I think they are the easiest to use. And I'm just going to pick a color here. So I'm going to pick the white. And all you do is take your steel tapestry bent tip needle, and if you take the eye of the needle and take your yarn and pinch it around the eye of the needle, just like so, take your needle out and just wiggle it right on there. See that? So it makes it really easy just to thread that on. Now all you need to do is working along the blanket into the same color as the tail you're weaving in. So I'm working through the white. I'm just going to weave my tail up through stitches, okay? And you'll notice I go up, I grab some stitches, I'm going to come back down. I am not altering any sort of the way the stitch itself looks, but I'm making my tail nice and secure. I'm going to come back in. I am not a fan of making knots typically, but if you choose, you could come back in like this and kind of do is this called a half hitch knot? Just to kind of snag it for you if you want to do that and make it a little bit more secure. But you'll notice I'm doing more than just going in and then back out, right? I'm coming in and back out and then going back in again and back out. Like I'm making this nice and secure. Like that is not coming undone. Even if I hadn't to put that little hitch knot in there, it would not be coming undone. So at this point, I am secure enough that I can snip that tail real nice and tight, and that's not popping undone. I could do the same thing with the following colors, and you will have a lot of tails to tuck in, you guys. This is a striping blanket. That's the nature of the beast. But I am telling you, it is worth your time to take the time to weave in your ends. If you're one of those people who likes to maybe work over your ends and then go back and weave them in, that is okay because you're still weaving in your ends. I think that is super important. As long as you are weaving in your ends at some point and not just crocheting over top of them, I think that is the most key aspect when you're dealing with lots of color changes. Now this one, you'll notice I came up and down that outside stitch. I came back, and then I'm just popping it back down through there, just like so, and voila, that's not gonna come undone. That's nice and secure. So I can snip that, and that is nice and good. Now see how nice and pretty my edge is, even with weaving in all those ends, and nothing's popping out. Of course I have more ends to pop in, or weave in, but it looks really pretty. So if you take the time to weave in your ends, it's absolutely worth it, especially if you're making a beautiful striped blanket like this. Now you know how to make the athleisure striped blanket, and hopefully this is one of those projects that's going to be really comfortable for you and relaxing because it's not a whole lot of memorization. And if you follow my extra charts I gave you, you could simply just check off each row as you've completed them and change colors whenever it's indicated. Go ahead and make the colors whatever colors you want them to be. Try and make this as easy as possible for you. I want to make sure that you are able to come to the Marley Bird YouTube channel and learn everything you need to learn to create wonderful, beautiful projects and pieces that have heirloom quality to them. Make sure that you go and subscribe to the Marley Bird YouTube channel so you're up to date whenever there's a new pattern released. You can follow me along over on Facebook.com and see whenever I have a new pattern released, or maybe there's a contest going on, or a yarn giveaway, or really fun Facebook Live videos. It's just Facebook.com/Marley Bird. Hope you enjoyed this video and you'll come back here for more videos right here on the Marley Bird YouTube channel. I'll talk to you again soon. I'm Marley Bird, proud spokesperson for Red Heart Yarns. Bye guys! Did you enjoy the video? Sweet! Make sure you come back here for more videos all about knitting or crochet right here on the Marley Bird YouTube channel. They are all free and they are all fun and fantastic because they're all taught by me.